Welcome back to the Dota Radio Morning Show, presented by Dota Radio, the internet radio dedicated to Dota 2. Make sure you visit us at dotaradio.com to learn more about our audio-only style of commentary. Remember, folks, you can tweet at us live during the show, at ZyoriTV, at Monolith Dota, or at HippieCasting, and we may field your questions live on air as they pertain to our topic. We got another good one for you guys coming up. We got IX Mike joining us later on the show to talk about some NA Dota action. We're going to talk MLG and see what's going on in his world. We are back with our usual suspects here. Myself, Zyori, going to be the show host once again. We've got Hippie over at the analysis desk, and we've got Monolith, our master of communications, back once again. Fellas, how's everybody feeling this morning?
I'm doing solid.
Glad to hear. I think Monolith is doing solid as well. Is he still with us? Did we?
I think we lost him on the call.
We're having
the call, and I don't see Monolith.
He may have had a DC issue. All right. Well, he is with us to some capacity here. Looks like he'll be back in a minute or two. No worries. We'll get him back in. Just keep tabs. Like I said, IX Mike is going to be joining us later today, guys. Remember, you can always email into the show, morningshow@dotaradio.com. If you have questions, comments, concerns. Someone actually did email me yesterday with some initial feedback, and shout out to you, whoever you are. You know who you are. Other big updates, guys. The show is now officially on iTunes, and that is something that a lot of folks have been asking us about. Here it is. I'll go ahead and drop the link in Twitch chat for y'all so you have it. I know a lot of folks are excited about getting the show in their iTunes, so there you have it. You can do that, just that easily. And let's go ahead and get straight into our news for today. So, very first thing on the docket, Hippie, the drums are gone. Valve has responded to the Reddit outcry, and they did indeed remove the drums. I haven't queued up a game since they did it. Is the gong back, or is it something totally different now?
I actually went to sleep reasonably early last night, so I didn't actually get to play without the drums, not gonna lie. I, too, have not queued up with the bong, but I assume the bong is back because bring back the bong, man. That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
Forget the bongos.
Yeah, I saw that video got pretty popular about the guy bring back the bong. It had something like 40,000 views on it or something. So, starting with the light piece, but we did mention it yesterday that there was an outcry, so almost perfect timing. It's like Valve is rolling out these changes in line with being able to present it on Dota Radio. It's pretty awesome here. So, our first big topic of discussion, though, is MLG. Last night premiered their new show, Esports Report. It was a 30-minute segment, I guess you could call it, a normal TV slot, and it was interesting. Hippie, I know you didn't get a chance to watch it, but I tuned in just to sort of see...
I did, actually.
Oh, you did?
That was Monolith who didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. So, all right. It was an interesting take on esports. It was very ESPN Sports Center-esque. And NASL, the North American Star League, have done a similar style. You know, they get everybody in the nice shiny suits, and they've got a nice studio with the panning camera shots. You know, the quick cuts, the nice transitions. The production value was top-notch. I mean, it was... for me, indistinguishable from real TV. I had it on my big 50-inch, plasma TV where I was sitting in bed working on my little laptop while I was soaking up the Esports Sports Center. And from my perspective, it was sort of indistinguishable from regular TV. If that had just come on ESPN, I probably wouldn't have thought twice until I heard, esports names that I recognized. What was your thought?
I mean, I kind of agree. I think one of the things that's a little weird, at least for me, is that, I mean, it's very similar to SportsCenter, and I've seen plenty of SportsCenter. They go through a lot of different sports, but I feel like if you're a sports fan, you're generally following a lot of different sports. Whereas with this, we're going through, we have, a 5-minute segment on Dota, maybe 5 to 7 minute segment on League of Legends. Then you had, 5 to 7 minutes on Call of Duty. And I feel like, and I could be wrong about this. I might be, it might just be me that focuses on very specific esports, but I feel like a lot of people are very into their game. So I'm not sure that a kind of big conglomerate sort of show is the best way to go about this, but we'll see. Maybe the numbers are really good. For all I know, they could be fantastic, and they could have gotten a really great response to that. But I personally am mostly interested in the Dota segment, even though I love to support all of esports because I want it to grow as a whole. The stuff where there's information, I'm interested in Dota. I don't pay attention to LoL. I don't pay, except for I vaguely watched the World Championship, but I had no idea what was going on.
Right.
I watched it because my friends were watching.
Yeah. I feel the same way, and that was one of my initial thoughts when I tuned in, was thinking that there are other shows that have sort of tried this format where you lump everything together. It's that one-stop shop, if you will, of esports updates. And I agree. Even though esports is one sort of congealed industry to some degree, the individual segments across the games are very, very segregated, and it's not common for a lot of people to have a lot at stake in between the segments. And I feel exactly the same. You know, seeing Call of Duty, I honestly just couldn't care less. I don't know any of the teams. I couldn't name one professional Call of Duty player. So when they're talking about it, I just have no frame of reference. And that's part of the problem, where with that individual episode, pretty much all of their Dota coverage was about MLG Full Sail. And I mean, that was the big thing. So that's warranted, but it was sort of too little too late almost. Like at this point, I already know everything I need to know about Full Sail, partially because we covered it when we premiered on Wednesday. But I didn't get a lot out of the show in terms of I learned things I didn't already know. That said, I think it's a very interesting idea to make it happen, and I like that MLG has taken it to the next level. And I still just can't get over how crisp and awesome their stream is. I was watching it on 480p on my HD TV, and it honestly looked like real television. I didn't even bother putting it on 720 or 1080. I have a really old laptop that doesn't handle HD streams that well because the Flash player is so outdated, and it's Windows Vista. But I mean, the 480p, you watch 40p on Twitch, and even on a small monitor, I'm like, I can't even read the text. I don't know who's playing. I could read all of the words perfectly on my 50-inch TV. So, again, hats off to MLG for their amazing production quality and their awesome stream. The only thing that bugs me is just we can't see their viewer numbers. I really want to know how popular that premiere was. You know, how many viewers did they peak at? And that's data we just don't have at our disposal anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I do have to second how absolutely incredible the resolution and everything is. It's incredible. I mean, you know, I agree with you completely. If I'm trying to watch a Dota match and I'm watching it 480p, I can't quite read the life bars. I can't really see the numbers. I can't quite tell what their gold is, and this is like staring at my monitor from right here.
Yeah,
the fact that you could watch it 480 from like several feet back on a nice TV and read everything clearly, that's impressive. That's something that MLG is just... Maybe it's the fact that they're not using Twitch as their streaming platform. It could be a problem unique to Twitch, but I don't know. We don't have enough streaming platforms to compare Twitch to, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out. But unfortunately, from what I read on Reddit at least, the reviews were kind of mixed. And one of the comments that I saw on Reddit that I thought was very appropriate was, this show is very American. It's a very American style of flashy quick cuts. There were a lot of people sort of critical of some of the hosts being overdressed, which is one of those... I see both sides of it. I think to some degree, yeah, we're talking about games, and I think it looks a little silly seeing a guy with a blazer and a tie, but at the same time, that's the mainstream standard for broadcasting, and if you want that sort of recognition, you sort of have to go that route. I don't really have a big problem with the clothes, but it did have a very American feel, and that can be an issue because Dota is a global game. I mean, a huge portion of the community is based out of the EU, based out of the CIS region, China, and all that. And my main concern is, does this appeal to those regions, and does MLG care? Does that bother them? Are they trying to focus on the North American region? So is that comment sort of good or bad? It's very American. For MLG, that might be, yes, that's great. That's what we're going for. We want a North American fan base. We don't care quite as much about the EUs. I don't know. Again, we don't know, but it's one of those interesting facets. And I wore my MLG shirt today. I got this shirt at MLG 2010. MLG DC, the first MLG event I went to on my 21st birthday. No doubt. The Saturday of MLG DC 2010 was my 21st birthday, October 16th. Oh, it was awesome. I was drunk, loving MLG, soaking up the esports action. It was great. Shout out to MLG. They're awesome. Can't wait for Columbus. It was an interesting show, though. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out. Actually, I have it right here on the MLG. We'll show a little screen cap of it. This is what it looked like. So there you go, folks. You can see very, very ESPN-esque. You've got the bottom scroll bar with just basic ticker updates. SC2, Spanish Esports Academy, welcome 8 amateur players. You got your cute little logo. You've got the topics on the left side. And look at the hosts. I'm not familiar with the female host, but she was great. Both of these hosts were really, really good. One of the other questions I had is, are they reading from a teleprompter or is it ad-libbed? Because they did a great job.
I would very much think they are. The way their eyes are focused are telling me that they have the standard setup teleprompter with camera.
It seemed, I mean, there was no stuttering. It was very well rehearsed. They transitioned very smooth. I have to think it was a teleprompter, which is okay. No hate.
That's fine.
It's just a different kind of mindset. All right, very cool. So like I said, folks, check it out. It is Major League Gaming to find their YouTube channel, and the video is already cataloged. Other big news in MLG, Nexon has officially released Dota 2 in South Korea. That's right, the game is out of beta. It's sort of exciting, but really doesn't change all that much. We all remember the beta for the regular client, how it just sort of magically is the same and everyone has access to it, and instead of needing beta invites. So it's still exciting. It's a milestone for Dota 2. As we mentioned yesterday, Korea is a country known for their gaming skills. They tend to excel very well in pretty much any game that they tackle. I believe it was a Korean team that won the League of Legends Worlds, so kind of point in case of something that happened not that long ago. And StarCraft 2, I mean, that's been the hub. South Korea has been the hub of competitive StarCraft 2 basically since before StarCraft 2, even StarCraft 1. So this is pretty exciting. We mentioned the Nexon Invitational Super matchup, that big tournament, the $50,000 league that just sort of sets up the best teams around the world to launch the Nexon name into the world of esports. But I don't know, Hippie, pretty exciting that, well, Dota 2 is officially global, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for one thing, just getting exposure around the world, and for another, like you said, Korea is a country where esports are taken a lot more seriously than a lot of other countries. We're just kind of getting exposure to the mainstream in places like America, in places like Europe. I know Sweden showed all of some of Alliance's matches during TI3, but it's not like they had full "this is TI3" coverage, whereas in Korea they had entire television channels dedicated to professional StarCraft, and these were successful, profitable channels. They hosted their own tournaments. They were, really big into the whole scene. They had separate shows where they, there were some fun shows that I used to catch on YouTube where they just would have the pro players come in and just play against people on BattleNet, and they just have those games running instead, and they were playing like fun games instead of tournaments. And these were successful, profitable shows. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that, we're getting Dota 2 out there, I think is really, really great for the exposure. It's been a primarily League of Legends country, but as they start to pick up Dota, we might see some really excellent teams come straight out of Korea. They tend to pick things up very, very fast.
Yeah, absolutely right. And to bring up Heroes of Newerth, again, we know that Han has tried to do this sort of segregated release and try to mimic what they've done with Garena in terms of leasing the rights and allowing the region-locked area to run the game how they see fit. And they tried to do it with Korea, and it failed. The big problem was League of Legends. There just wasn't enough hype. They had the Han beta over there, and there literally was just not enough interest. Too many people were playing League of Legends, and S2 just said, all right, forget about it. We can't do it. It's not going to work. We don't have the resources. We don't have the marketing power over there. We concede to you, Riot. So it's going to be interesting to see how Valve tackles that. Of course, they do have a lot more resources at their disposal, and having Nexon as a partner, that's a very big partner in that region. But it'll be interesting to see how much of the market share in terms of MOBA action Dota can take away from League of Legends in that area of the world. I'm also going to be excited to see how these Korean teams fare. What's their playstyle going to be like? Is it going to be more similar to that super aggressive Russian style? Will it be more similar to the more passive farm-oriented style of China? I'll be curious. It's interesting to see how those metas evolve based on geographic region. I remember seeing an interview with 2GD talking about how if he can only have one piece of information about a team or a set of players, it's what country they're from. And he said that's the best way to identify their play style, more so than anything else. And I think that's just sort of a fascinating thing to kind of consider.
Yeah, I do think that if we're talking about, reasons Han failed, I think one thing Valve won't run into is a lack of resources. I don't think Valve is ever going to run out of money.
I hope not.
Gabe Newell is one of the wealthiest people on the planet. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Kind of awesome at the same time, but, a little ridiculous.
That's true. So our next piece of news here, guys, DreamHack and Sverige TV6 are going to start a new league. This is really exciting. And if you're not Swedish and you don't know what TV6 is, I don't blame you. If you're American, it's pretty comparable to ABC. That's our Channel 6. It's one of those channels that everybody gets. You don't have to have a satellite package. You just put that antenna on your TV and you get those kind of fuzzy channels. That's what TV6 is. So this is a really big deal. That means the distribution of this tournament. We've already seen TV6 cover DreamHack finals in the past. There has been international coverage. That was the channel that it was on. So TV6 has been very welcoming of esports. Sweden is definitely one of the most esports friendly countries in the world right now. But it's pretty fascinating. If I'm not mistaken, they have $50,000 on the line, and not too much information has been released, but this is part of that DreamHack studio that they announced not that long ago, now partnering with TV6 for that distribution, and they're going to have their own league. And I love in the article, it says Swedish Team Alliance, who is also the world champion, are big favorites. It's like, oh yeah, of course. It is interesting that they're a Swedish team as well, so that makes it a little bit more spicy. And it's also rumored, I guess we could say, announced that in the next season they're going to up it from 6 teams to 12 teams, and the prize money will be doubled from 50,000 to 100,000. So even just more better news, man. The Dota 2 esports scene is exploding. I mean, we have more leagues with thousands of dollars in the double digits, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on the line. Almost more matches than we can keep up with. Every day when we talk about the matches from the previous day, there are more matches going on than I can watch. We almost need to like assemble a team of Daily Show folks that just sit around and watch Dota matches and give us the highlights, because there aren't enough hours in a day to enjoy all of this top-notch Dota content. It's a little frustrating, but it's awesome to hear. And I'm telling you, man, we're in the wrong place. We got to get over to Stockholm. I've heard about the initiative to make Stockholm the esports hub of the world, and they're well on their way. It's good to see. I'm glad to see esports getting more mainstream coverage.
It would be pretty awesome. It does come down to, they've always been favorites. They've always had DreamHack, which is huge. So it's always been a great country to go for esports. And the fact that they have this top-notch, incredible team, it's like kind of a perfect storm. It's like saying, okay, we've had this for a while. This is something that our nation has been very successful in. It's been, a great driver of commerce, great driver of international tourism, quite frankly. I mean, you have a couple DreamHacks a year, and it brings in a ton of visitors from around the world. And so for me, it just seems kind of natural that they would try to get something like this going, not only because it's profitable for the companies, but because it's good for the nation as a whole to try and get these sort of initiatives set up. If you make yourself the center for a growing industry in Europe, you're going to end up pretty successful, I think.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. And as one, I've been to Sweden 4 times now, and always looking forward to the next time I get to go back. Stockholm is a great city. It's so clean, so safe, so friendly, a huge nightlife. Public transportation is great. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Sweden. If I had a real job offer over there, I would seriously consider relocating to live over that way. And I probably have well, maybe not more friends, but I've got at least 4 or 5 good buddies that I could bunk with over there in the sort of outskirts of Stockholm. So shout out to Dawes and Heaton over there, and all those other buddies. So pretty exciting. We'll keep tabs as more stuff is announced. We know that the GD studio has been partnered with DreamHack to do production stuff. So there's a lot of big stuff happening over in Sweden. Of course, we can look forward to that. And DreamHack winter is around the corner, folks. It is coming up November. Oh, Jesus, I can't remember now. I want to say it's the weekend after MLG Columbus. It's coming up soon in November. So
I know they specifically moved the date of Columbus to not conflict with DreamHack, because there was a big fuss. Like, people were flipping out. They're like, oh man, MLG scheduled themselves up against DreamHack. What jerks. And then MLG's like, yo, this wasn't intentional. We can move this to avoid DreamHack,
Right. Yeah. So still awesome stuff coming out from Sweden. So here we go, guys. Let's talk 6.79, the patch that continues to evolve. I first want to just make note of this great article that Cyborg Matt posted on his blog talking about the new Roshan respawn timer. Here, I'll show a couple of highlights here. It's a little bit confusing. If you've seen in the competitive games now, there's that random element where Roshan will respawn between 8 and 11 minutes. And the way this timer works, spectators know pretty close to when Roshan's going to spawn, at least within some sort of a level. So we have this outer ring here that shows the first 8 minutes, and then after that, it changes based on if it's going to be within that 8 to 9 minute window, 9 to 10 minute window, or 10 to 11 minute window. So you get this kind of 1 dot timer, you get the 2 dot timer, and then you get the 3 dot timer, and those correlate to how much longer it's going to be until Roshan respawns. But there are no numbers. It's all these dots. You still get those little pop-ups on the side right here that tell you when Roshan's going to be respawning, so it's not all bad. But I wonder, Hippie, as we're both casters ourselves, is this a little too much? I mean, it's graphically cool, but I'm sort of in favor of why not just put a little digital clock there. I'm more concerned about being able to grab the specific time in which Roshan is respawning as quickly as possible, so I don't have to leave the camera there, instead of doing, okay, so we've got 2 dots, that's going to be 8 minutes, somewhere between 9 and 10, okay, and we're in the 3rd quadrant, so that means we're 15 seconds into the second, like, just tell me the damn time. That's all I want to know. Is that
I
too
think,
much?
well, I think that as casters, I think we'll get to the point where we're so used to it we can make that assessment on the fly. But I do think for spectators in general, it
Mhm.
would be nice to have just some kind of countdown. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to be able to catch at a glance because there's so much going on in a Dota match. You always
Yeah.
have to be moving your camera around. There's so much to try to catch. You're gonna miss things because there are gonna be things happening simultaneously, and the less time you spend hovering over that little Roshan timer so that spectators can kind of gauge the timing for themselves. They can listen to us. They can, find whatever they need to figure it out. It's going to come down to the fact that there are going to be plenty of spectators who aren't as used to it as the casters, who aren't prepared to read it kind of at a glance, and they're going to want to. They're going to want to be able to see that thing. So if they miss us talking about it, if they miss the casters talking about it, then
Yeah.
they can read it for themselves. And so, yeah, I do think to an extent an easier to read Roshan timer, maybe right there with it, because I do really like the design of it. I think it's really, really visually cool.
Oh yeah.
And I
For
think
sure.
that as, a little sundial sort of thing, it does kind of fit with the game. But if there was another way to kind of show it, like if we could maybe just bring out, because you know how it has that, Roshan respawns in X seconds timer that pops up.
Yeah.
Maybe if we could just get a hotkey to pop that out. So we can
That would be
say,
a
so we
good
can look over
workaround.
at it and then boom, pop it out. And same for the Aegis despawn.
Yeah.
One of the things I actually really, really liked about Heroes of Newerth was that there was a timer for the Aegis despawn.
Right.
And so, I mean, on the one hand, it was for players as well. So it made it a little easier even if you missed the Roshan timer. Whereas in
Right.
Dota, we're not trying to make it, not trying to make everything super easy. I have various thoughts on that I'll hold back. But I do think for spectators, having that Aegis despawn timer would be really, really helpful. And having the Roshan respawn timer and just having them available for us, maybe not on screen, but so we can bring them out, would be really helpful. I think it's a tool that I would like Valve to give us.
Yeah. And there was a good comment on the Reddit post that said, thanks for this great explanation. The problem is that we needed this explanation to be able to understand it. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, where sometimes, as you mentioned, there are certain aspects of Dota that are a little more complicated than they need to be at times. So at least now we understand. Big shout out to Cyborg Matt for doing his thing, that awesome blog that he runs. And I just realized I don't have my phone on me, and I wonder if Charlie's texting me right now talking about how his internet just failed or he lost power or something. I probably should have brought my phone in here. He still isn't back online, so I don't know what the issue is. So it's just going to be Hippie and myself. And again, we are going to bring on IX Mike before too long. Here he is in Skype, ready and waiting for us. So we'll move into that pretty quickly. All right. We wanted to mention 6.79 Necronomicon, and maybe we'll save that until you move into the Pugna segment a little bit, Hippie. Do you want to just comment on the Necro book action a little bit here while we're talking about 6.79?
Well, actually, I'll preface it very, very quickly in that it got a direct buff on the duration and a couple of indirect buffs through nerfs to other items. The fact that you can no longer Midas the Necronomicon unit, and the fact that you can no longer dominate it with Helm of the Dominator. These are two items that are very commonly picked up on carry heroes, and generally, if you're a carry hero that's not going to go Hand of Midas, it's reasonably likely you're going to have a Helm of the Dominator at some point or another. So you can not only destroy some of the power of the Necro book, but even turn it to your side. So it used to be, a very, very risky pickup for those reasons.
Yeah.
Now you need specific heroes to directly counter that Necro book. So it makes the item a more viable pickup. It was already very, very powerful if it wasn't countered. It's always been very powerful. The DPS those minions put out is kind of insane. You have the mana burn, you have the versatility, and no one even wants to kill the melee one because you take, I believe it's 500 or 600 pure damage when you kill it.
Yeah.
It's a crap ton. And they're very viable for sieging because you can just kind of throw them up there, siege the tower down a little bit, you have some extra creeps, and bam, you didn't even put any heroes at risk. So both the direct and indirect buffs to Necro make it a more viable pickup, which makes pushing a more viable tactic, which will lead into Pugna in a couple minutes.
Absolutely right. So yeah, that sort of ripple effect of if you just take the Necronomicon changes at face value, as I pulled up there, just increasing the duration, okay, that's great. But it's all those other things that make it more powerful. Again, as you mentioned, the Hand of Midas, Helm the Dominator action. So we are going to talk Pugna in our hippie segment tonight, or I keep doing that. I have this. I guess we always broadcast tonight, so I'm used to saying, "Oh, welcome to tonight's show." I got to get that out of my vocabulary there. So, all right. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about most recent matches here. Yesterday we had WePlay Navi versus Empire, and this was a crazy series. Navi did take it 2-0, if I'm not mistaken here, but it was a good series. Pugna was in both matches. He was 50-50. He won the first game, and I believe Pugna lost the second game. Again, just more lead into that little segment. But in game 2, we got to see Dendi play Pudge with a Blink Dagger, and I think this is the first time we've seen Dendi do this in a competitive game since the patch hit. Somebody pulled out a nice highlight video that is about a minute and a half or so, and I wish I had gotten permission to play it. I'll link it right here, though. And it was amazing. It was just really cool to see Pudge with that long range. I mean, his area of influence is ridiculous when he has Blink plus Hook. I mean, the area in which you are not safe if Pudge is semi-nearby is just absolutely insane, especially in the hands of a player like Dendi. And one of the things that I wanted to comment on that I noticed right away from watching that second match is how well Blink Pudge can counter the Naga Siren. Blink has a 1200 range. Naga Siren ulti has a 1250 range on her ultimate, the Song of the Siren. And I've brought up in cast many a times, Naga Siren's a great first pick because how do you counter her? Once that ult is on the field, yeah, you can grab a Rubik, yeah, you can try and initiate on her, but it's really difficult. That radius is ridiculous. And we saw several times in that last match, Dendi blinking in, catching the Naga with his pants down, using the Dismember, the follow-ups there, they take out the Naga before the fight even starts. That happened at least 3 times in that second game. It's in that highlight reel and you can look at it. That's incredible. That opens up a whole nother window of opportunity for counters to Naga. And to do that, you don't even have to be that great at Pudge. It's just Blink Dismember. It doesn't really get much easier than that. You know, I mean, having good hook connection is good. I saw someone saying, I think in that match, Dendi only had like 58, 60% hook accuracy, which I think is actually semi-low. I would have expected it to be a little bit higher, but he was just all over the place, man. Blinking like crazy, hopping in. It was a good series. I would recommend catching the Vons if you're looking for something to watch. Later on today, I did spoil it for you, so sorry about that. But the matches are great. Hippie, any thoughts about that series in particular?
Well, I think if we want to talk about the Blink Pudge, that's a 2500 range, effective range hook. If you're very, very precise with your Blink and you're very, very precise with your hook, that's the maximum effective range. You're probably only getting, 2000, 2200, but that's still like 2200 range really on that hook, and that doesn't really take that long. Yep. Or it doesn't really take that much effort to get the 2200 because even if you screw up the Blink, you get a 960 range Blink. Yep. And then you have still the 1300 range hook. So as long as you can hit a max range hook against a hero who, well, you're probably not in vision radius because you were over 2,000 units away, you can get some serious work done. It makes the threat of Pudge, who was already very, very threatening with early smokes, and that's another change that was really big to Pudge, the fact that you can't sentry out his smokes anymore, so you just don't know he's coming.
Right.
So,
yeah.
There's a lot of kind of indirect buffs to Pudge through these items that I think they're obviously making Dendi happy. He really liked it. He tweeted out right after that game. He's like, finally, I have my dagger. It's pretty great.
Always good to see a happy Dendi, for sure. So, all right, we are right at the halfway mark here. We're going to take our break, and we're going to bring on IX Mike. We have some great talking points coming up, and then we are going to have Hippie's segment about Pugna coming up in the second half of the show, guys. So don't go anywhere. The Dota Radio Morning Show coming back in a couple minutes here with IX Mike to talk to us about some North American Dota action.